Hello and welcome to Do It Yourself Musician, and welcome to part 2 of my pedalboard makeover. Please take a look at the link in the show notes below to part 1 so you can catch up to where we are on this video. Basically, in the last video I showed that this is my old pedalboard and I wanted to make it just a little bit smaller, so I took off a few pedals, condensed it a little bit into this basic layout here. Which I think is going to be just more effective. I had a lot of extra space on this board in a riser that I didn't need, so I'm going to generally go with this layout. And if you remember, also last time there was a couple pedals I didn't have. I was using a placeholder for a tuner, but I've got that tuner pedal now. It's a TC Polytune 2, and that's going to slot in there like that. And also there was the loop switch pedal over here, which I had a home DIY made pedal over there, but this little Layla true bypass switch pedal is going to work better in this position. So that's basically going to be the layout. I can already tell just from looking at this I'm going to make a couple of changes to this, but I'll worry about that when we get into wiring it in part 3. So one thing I have done too is I've inserted connectors into all my pedals, the connectors that I'm going to use, and you should do that too before you figure out a measurement. I'm sort of using my old pedal board because I just wanted to lose a few inches on it. I like the depth of it. I just wanted to lose some width, so I'm just using my old pedal board as sort of an alignment thing. If you don't have an old board to do that with, you can just lay your pedals out on a table like this to get an arrangement of their width and length. But yeah, put any connectors you're going to use into the pedals to get the correct spacing, or a pretty general idea of the spacing that you're going to need. Also, things like this power and this Voodoo Lab. It's nice to keep it inside the board. Sometimes it doesn't work though, and you might wind up having to go a little off the board there, but you know, you might change that connector or something. I don't know, but go ahead and put what you got on there now. Don't forget MIDI. There's a MIDI connector here on my MIDI mouse, but I should clear. It should be fine. And that'll get you a basic length and width, or length and depth, that you're going to need. And then you can just go ahead at that point and measure out what your length and depth are. And previously I think I measured 16.5, 22 on mine. And then you can build a board. I was either going to modify this board or build a new one. I actually, in fact, move this out of the way. I actually, in fact, went ahead and just built a whole new board, which is here, and this is 16.5, 22 size board, and this will be the new board for me that I'll wire up in the 3rd episode. If you are going to build one of these boards, though, I'm going to show you a little bit about how to build them, what materials they're made out of. These sort of aluminum edged pro style pedal boards. I mean, basically you have aluminum U-channel surrounds, some nice stainless steel handles. The top is surfaced with any number of things, really. I mean, I like to use ABS plastic laminate, which is what this is. The board itself, I'll flip it over, you can see is a piece of 1/2-inch birch plywood, and then you have rubber feet to support the board, and that's basically what these things are made out of. And to take a little bit closer look at it, I'll show you sort of the steps to building one, if you want to build one of your own. The materials you're going to need, like I said, are 1/2-inch birch plywood that you'll need to get cut to the size of your board. And you'll need to cut this really square. Building one of these kind of pedal boards, you can do it. It's not impossible, but it's for an advanced builder. I'll tell you that right now. If you're looking for something easy to build, I would think about building an IKEA Gorm board, pedal board. And if you want to attempt building one of these kind of boards, just know that it is for an advanced type of build, because you have to keep your tolerances, really square and really precise. So it helps if you have some power tools and things like that. But you really don't need those. You could do it by hand with hand tools. I've done it. It just makes it really hard. It's because it's not actually that easy with power tools. But anyways, yeah, you want to start with cutting your board out. And like I said, this is 1/2 inch birch plywood. One note about birch plywood is that you want to get one that has a really nice smooth finish side on it. They usually come one side really finished, the other side maybe has some knots. This one has knots on both sides actually. This is actually a scrap piece. I'm just showing you for illustration purposes. Another thing is you want to pay attention to your width, because even though this is a 1/2 inch stock, these things are usually come out around 0.45. They're like 1/100th of an inch thinner than actual 1/2 inch. Sometimes they're as thin as 7/16. I would go somewhere between 7/16 and up to 45/100ths for the wood thickness. You do not want to get a board that's actually a 1/2 inch thick. Because if you do, your U-channel is not going to fit on it. So just make sure that the board is dimensioned like it's supposed to be as far as the thickness. And you can buy these in 4x8 sheets, 2x4 sheets, 2x2 sheets. You can get them at Lowe's and Home Depot. They're pre-cut or whatever, or a lumber yard. And when you cut it to your final size, you have to make sure that you cut extremely square. If you don't, it just is not going to work out for you. This thing has to be square on all sides. So get yourself a good square to measure with, to make sure that you're getting that thing really, really square. If you get somebody to cut it for you, like a Home Depot or Lowe's, they can cut these there. You better bring a square to make sure that they actually do get a square, because they usually cut with the panel saw, and that thing's going to veer off. It's not going to be straight. You have to be straight and square to make this whole thing work out, because it's so precise. So yeah, you get your board, you get it cut, you get it squared. The next thing you want to do is you want to drill it for T-nuts. And what the T-nuts are these little, these are T-nuts. They're little threaded inserts that you mount into the wood with these teeth. Mine are basically number 8, or excuse me, number 1032 T-nuts. And what you want to do to make them seat in the board really good, this is how you hold your rubber feet on. If this is going to be the surface of your board, you'll need to drill into this board from the top to mount the T-nut. And what you do is you get yourself a paddle bit or a Forstner bit or something, and you're going to drill down in there to get a little bit of countersink on it, because you don't want it to stick up above the surface of the wood. And after you drill your countersink hole, you'll drill through for the shank of the T-nut. You'll drill all the way through the wood, and what you'll wind up with is something like this. Here's a little sample. See how the T-nut is countersunk into the wood, and then you drill through with the appropriate size bit to the bottom. And so this, like I said, this is in the surface of the board, so that way you can mount your rubber feet to the bottom of the pedal board, and then you're going to laminate over this so you won't see the T-nuts. So that's how you mount the rubber feet on there. And you can get T-nuts in 1032 3/4 or 1/2 inch bolts. You can get those at hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot, local hardware. I get mine at Reliable Hardware here in Los Angeles. They're a touring case supply company. There's several of those around that you can get things like that from. Reliable Hardware actually sells these in a bag, a set already ready to go. I'll link their website URL in below. The rubber feet, I get these from Reliable. You can also get these sometimes at hardware stores. I think they're on Amazon too. They're just little, like 1/2 inch by inch feet or something. I'm actually not sure what the size is, but it works well with the number 10 bolt head that goes through there. All right, so after you would drill in and put all your T-nuts through your feet, the second thing you're going to do after that is laminate the top, or cut the plastic at least. And this is ABS laminate here. This stuff is available from sign shops, from plastic supply places. Again, I get my ABS at Reliable Hardware here in Los Angeles, and they will ship this stuff around. Unfortunately, it only comes in 4x8 sheets, but they'll roll it up in a roll and put it in a box and ship it to you that way if you can't find any locally. But you can see this stuff has a textured surface on it, and I find this to be the best thing for a pedal board because it's really durable plastic, and this textured surface, it holds Velcro and dual lock really, really well. But also Velcro and dual lock, they release from this surface really well. I mean, usually you have no residue left. If you do, just rubbing it or a little alcohol will just take it right off. I mean, this is excellent for a paddleboard surface. People use other things though. They use just regular countertop laminates, decorative laminates. I've seen even ones that have some sort of rubber tread type material on them. I mean, you could even put rat fur on this if you could watch your dimensions to make sure. Actually, on any of these materials, watch your dimensions to make sure that it'll go into the U channel. It's not too thick. This stuff can't be too thick. But yeah, that's the ABS laminate. You want to cut this to the size of your board. This one isn't cut down. Again, it's just a sample piece that I had laying around. But you want to cut it, if you can see, just for illustration purposes. You can see how that's a little shy of the edges there. That's the way you want to cut it and glue it down. It's a bit shy of the edges because when this stuff heats up, it'll expand. And with it trapped in there with the aluminum surround, you don't want it to delaminate and bubble up. So you want to have a little area for it to expand into. Speaking of gluing it down and laminating it, this is the stuff that I use. This is Keystone High Temp Heavy Duty Trim Adhesive. And again, comes from Reliable Hardware. There's probably other sources for this stuff around. I found this to be the best stuff for doing this type of lamination because it's a high temperature glue. It'll withstand being out in a really hot sun and not having this thing delaminate. And so this is what I would recommend using. There is a 3M product. I think it's Super 90 or something like that. That is. Or it's called Super Strength 90, I think. And that stuff's basically the same thing, but I don't think it goes to the highest temp rating as this Keystone stuff. Again, this is available at Reliable Hardware. I don't work for Reliable. That's who I use, so I'm just telling you that's where I get it at. But anyways, when you laminate these two things together, you'll spray an even layer of the Keystone. You want to do it in a well ventilated place, so I'm not going to do it in here. But you'll just cover the board, or the board and the laminate evenly. So you cover your laminate, you'll cover your board, then you'll set them aside to dry separately, glue face up. So the glue dries. I mean, you probably give it like 15-30 minutes for that glue to dry. And what you want is to be able to touch it and the glue doesn't come off. It's just tacky feeling, but it won't come off on your hand. At that point, you could join the two surfaces together. Let me use this end, it's got a better cut on it. You would join the two surfaces together, as soon as these things go together with that glue, they're going to hold, so you better be accurate when you drop it on there. And then you want to smooth it out. It's nice if you have a roller to sort of try to push out any air bubbles. I usually don't get many air bubbles when I do it. And like I said, make sure you get it dropped on there so you have a little bit of reveal around the edge, and then you're going to roll that out, get it glued on there, then put another board on top of it, and then pile a bunch of weight on it. I use sandbags. Put another piece of plywood on it. I throw sandbags on top, and I leave it that way for 24 hours to let that top really laminate strongly on there. And after you do that, you will wind up with something that looks like this. This is the properly laminated board, and you can see there's a little bit of reveal there from the wood to the laminate, and that goes all the way around because you want this stuff to be able to expand if it has to. But this is what it should look like: a nice, flat, properly laminated board. And again, it's square. It's got to be square. If it's not square, you're in big trouble. All right, the next phase after that would be to move on to making the aluminum U-channel surround. And the U-channel that you want to use on a 1/2 inch piece of plywood is a 1/2 inch aluminum U-channel, and you can see that there. That's a 1/2 inch wide, and it's a 1/16 wall thickness. This again is a scrap piece that I'm just using for illustration purposes. This particular piece has the anodized surface, which I like a lot. It's a lot cleaner looking, smoother, a little tougher, but this is more expensive. It's about twice as expensive as just regular aluminum. You want to make sure that your wall thicknesses are exactly a 1/16. Sometimes these things are extruded a little bit fatter than you can run into trouble later with that. It just means the material's cheap and wasn't made right. It should be exactly 1/16 inch thick on all three walls and be exactly a 1/2 or even slightly over and a 1/2 inch in the center, and that way it has enough room to fit over the plywood and the laminate. If it doesn't have room, it can't. If it's not thick enough, it won't have the width on there. But you can see it's got to be able to swallow. It's got to be able to swallow all that up like that. If it's too thin, it won't, because you can see there's like no room for play. So your plywood and the U-channel have to be sized correctly, or it's just not going to work. There's basically three things that you need to know and achieve to make this aluminum surround fit properly without having gaps in your miters. One is the dimensions. You need the exact dimensions of the board that you're going to be surrounding. And mine is 21 7/8 exact dimension long, and right here. Exact dimension deep is 16 3/8. And what you'll do when you cut your aluminum channel, you'll need to add an 1/8 inch to that dimension. Say like 21 7/8, you'll add an eighth to make it an even 22 length when you cut, you know, the piece, the long piece, and add an eighth. I have 16 3/8, so I'll cut this side piece on my board 16 1/2. And the reason you do that is you're compensating for that 16th inch thickness that this has, because you're going to be measuring on the outside of this, so you have to compensate for that thickness to make it land right. If not, you'll come short and you'll have a gap in your pieces. Okay. So I've got a couple here. These are cut to 22 and 16 1/2 right here. I'm going to move this out of the way. So first thing was your exact board dimensions. The second thing that you have to do is you have to have a saw, or you have to be capable of sawing exactly a 45-degree mitered corner. Set your saw up and do some test cuts to make sure that it's exactly 45. The other thing that needs to happen is that you need to know, or you need to make sure that you cut opposing sides, like the top and the bottom, and the left and right side pieces. They have to be exactly the same length. You need 45-degree cuts, and you need the opposing pieces to be exactly the same length. And there's various ways to achieve that. I'm not going to go into actual, woodworking or how to operate saws and make cuts and stuff. You can look on YouTube for videos for that. But you can see that these are exactly the same length, and the miters are exactly 45s. If you get your miters off, or you get the lengths of the opposing sides a little different, when you go to wrap your board with this material, you're going to get a gap. You're going to wind up with either that kind of a gap, or you're going to get just an outright big gap in the corner of it if you don't cut this material right, exactly to length and exactly square. You can check that with a square. You can see here on these are actually my scrap pieces, and it's just showing you with here. You can run these down into the square, and you can see that there's no gap, and that's exactly square, and that's what you want. Okay, when you go to actually install this around, you'll need to put it on and position it. You'll have to work it around, use some muscle to get it lined up right. I use 4 clamps. I clamp across here with a clamp, and I go this way with a couple more clamps. So you'll need some good long bar clamps to clamp everything down, and then I adjust the clamps until everything's centered and my miters are dead on and everything's being held in place. And then I'll drill. Actually, I won't drill. I will use a tap. One of these center punches. I'll mark out my locations for my holes. I usually do one in the center, and then I'll come in from the sides a certain amount. It's just sort of arbitrary when I do it. I just look for something that looks good. And then I'll punch a little starter punch hole for each of the holes I'm going to drill. And most people actually drill these holes on the bottom of the board and put the screws in there. I do mine on the face because I like the way they look. But anyways, yeah, you'll start it with the punch hole, and then I usually start with a little small, tiny drill bit and drill little pilot holes, and I work my way up until I get to the size I need for my my sheet metal screws, which in this instance these are number 8s, and I went up to a 1/8 inch drill bit size. When I got to that size, I went ahead and drove these screws in. And the entire time you need to constantly watch your miters and things and make sure stuff isn't slipping around while you're doing that. And then just insert your screws to hold your edge banding on. Then after that, you will put your handles on, and these handles you can just get them at any hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot, local store, or whatever. And it's just a U-shaped handle, and then it's just has some screws that it's bolted through with. And what I do is I actually have a jig that's got the 2 holes I need exactly spaced properly. And the jig also gives me the proper spacement into the center of the rail. And I'll just put that on. You can see over here, I'll clamp it on and I'll shoot through it to make the holes for the handles. And that's pretty easy. It's not actually that tough to do that. And then the last step would be to actually just screw the rubber feet on, and you can see they just screw into the T-nuts that you put into the board earlier. And of course, when you mount those T-nuts, you need to be aware of you have a 1/2 inch spacing on each side. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but I go in an inch that way and in an inch that way, and it clears, so it's fine. That's really all there is to building one of these Pro Tour style pedal boards. I mean, they're strong, and they're pretty darn light. Actually, they're not heavy at all, and it's the best material, I think, to put your Velcro and your dual lock on for your pedals. So I hope you got some information out of that. If you want to know anything else, just leave a comment below, and I'll answer any questions I can. Be sure to subscribe so you won't miss any more tutorial videos like this. And I'm shortly going to start wiring this, and that will be the part 3 video. I'm going to do an entire wiring setup. I'm going to talk about how to place the pedals, how to make sure they're locked down on the board good, the actual wiring of the audio and the power and the routing of the power. Probably talk a little bit about pedal board snakes, going from pedal board to backline. I'm going to just kind of cover everything about setting up a good solid pedal board that's gonna last you a long time and be rugged and hopefully not break down on you. So I'll see you next time.